Well, meantime, we've got Missouri coming up. And, Missouri looked sloppy all season as well. And of course, we have our friend. He has been the post-game host of Alabama with the Voice College Football for 3 years. He is the host of Missouri Live at the Voice of College Football on Missouri at the Voice College Football, which will be on SEC at the Voice College Football tonight, the second edition, 7 p.m. Central Time. The one and only himself, Zach Remulus. How you
Man, you
doing
give me
today,
that.
good buddy?
How you doing? You give me that big of a buildup, you're gonna make me feel like a bigger deal. I know I'm a little late. Sorry. You tell people what time you need to leave, and then leave work, and then things just don't work out. So.
Oh, you're good, man. Like we were gonna wait for you to talk about Alabama, Missouri. Matter of fact, we were gonna wait until you arrived to talk about Missouri Auburn for a little bit because
Oh, how
yeah,
fun!
it's like
That one was fun. That was a fun game.
Oh man, like as
For the
I
final 6 minutes,
told
the first 50 minutes were infuriating.
that's what I pretty much counted on. Like I told our buddy Sports Talk with Austin last week when we were doing the Pitts analysis that I know just what's going to happen. Missouri Auburn. Auburn's going to look like that. It's going to look like it's going to be a top-notch victory, a top-notch upset, and then Missouri's going to come back. Auburn's just going to blow it. They always do this. They've done it before. They'll do it again.
Well, and you had the whole thing with Drew Pine comes in, looks like, after Mizzou fans have been clamoring for him, and he comes in and he stinks. Bless him. And then Brady Cook literally comes out of the hospital because he's like, I got 2.5 games left at Faroe. I'm not missing this one at the hospital. Comes in and just a gutsy drop. He wasn't perfect. He missed a couple throws, but when he on the gotta have it, he was awesome. I mean, on my show, we're going to talk about like Brady Cook's legacy, despite what happens for this season. But yeah, no, that game was infuriating until it wasn't. Which has kind of been a theme for Mizzou this year.
We haven't had that in Alabama for a while. Infuriating too.
Like you said, I did this show for 3 years. I know. But no, it was a nice win. Like they hadn't beaten Auburn since they've been in the SEC, so have a chance to knock off another team that they hadn't beaten since they've been in the SEC. So and Auburn's not a terrible team. They're probably like a top 45 team, top 40 team. They just keep finding ways to lose games. So,
well, I mean, they can always say they're the best 3-9 team in all of college football. I mean,
they won't top Nebraska that one year where they lost every game but like Ohio State. That was crazy. But
the way they're looking like, they could definitely do that.
They're gonna have to finish strong because I think they got Kentucky, they got Vandy, but no,
they'll lose to Kentucky and Vandy, and they'll brag about, well, we lost to them at overtime.
I'll say this: Auburn screwed up. They should have kept Gus Malzahn.
Probably.
Yeah.
Gus isn't having a great time at UCF right now, but KJ Jefferson wasn't what they thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
Probably.
That guy can coach.
He can coach ball. And, Hugh Freeze. But Hugh Freeze did beat Alabama a decade ago at a different school twice. So who's to say?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But, we've got a big one coming up, 2:30 on ABC. Sean Madonna is likely going to be calling that game. And, Zach, what are your thoughts on Alabama, Missouri going into Saturday afternoon?
So I just talked about last week, and I talked about all year. Mizzou this year offensively has been mediocre. Just mediocre. They haven't been able to do anything. Their explosive play rate has been horrible. Sometimes it just takes one throw to kind of get things going. Like last year, we saw it with Brady Cook against Kansas State. Like he was pretty bad in the South Dakota and Middle Tennessee games. He hits one deep shot to Luther Burden, and he turns it around and has a really nice season. So against UMass, actually, at the end of the game, they hit a couple really nice throws, like to Brett Norfleet, the tight end. And I know it's going to sound really bad. It's like it's UMass, but like these were throws he wasn't hitting against Murray State or Buffalo or Boston College, who isn't that good. He was just missing these throws. So maybe that sparked him a bit, because at Auburn, he played 5 drives and they scored 18 points. Like, that's not – Auburn's a pretty decent defense. The Mizzou offensive line did not have a banner day. So hopefully something clicked there. We'll see. For Mizzou, if they want to stay in this game and win and have a chance to win it, all offseason we heard about how great these receivers are. And they are super talented. Luther Burden, Theo Weiss, Josh Manning's made a bigger impact than I think a lot of people thought he was going to in his limited snaps. Mookie Cooper had the big 78-yard catch and run last week 2 days ago against Auburn. Daniel Blood's gotten opportunities. They have a really nice tight end in Brett Norfleet. These are all highly rated 4 or 5-star guys. And all offseason, it was all the Mizzou receivers are great. Brady Cook's pretty good, like a Jag plus quarterback. This is the week those receivers need to show that they are a top 5 unit in the country just on talent. Like everyone thought they were coming into the season. Because that Bama secondary, and Jag, we talked about it when we were doing this, is leaky. It's very leaky.
No doubt.
Yeah. I mean, secondaries everywhere.
And I watched the game. Nico was missing some throws. They played pretty well for the first half against Georgia, but other than that, it's been pretty leaky. So if Mizzou wants to stay in this game and not have what happened against Texas A&M, offensively, they're going to need to hit some explosives.
Yeah.
Well, the secondary, what's going on? There's going to be a trend sooner or later. It's going to change, but it's too much. Way back when I mentioned this before, when Spurrier at Florida was he would do the time throws, and then ball was in the air, and so the receiver, even before the receiver turned the head, that kind of stuff. And then to counter that, everybody went to the bump and run, and started getting real hands-on receiver. Then to counter that, everybody started doing the back shoulder throws. And so, which is kind of, we're still blah, blah, blah with regard to that. So secondary, and if I were a defensive back coach today, I really would, back off a little bit, maybe do instead of maybe 3-4 yards off the receiver, I would get away, because when everybody started doing the press man, and that's when everybody got all hands on, and that kind of stuff. Now you see the flag, penalty, holding, and they're not getting their head around. So it's evolved a little bit where I think now it's more defensive backs need to back off a little bit and then react, instead of try to, crowd them at the line of scrimmage, slow down their release off the line of scrimmage and just back off a little bit, so they give themselves a chance to get that head around, turn around, and react to the ball. And so I've just seen that kind of transition evolution over the last few years, and it's killing a lot of teams right now with all these, everything's holding. It got too much hand, too much grabbing and stuff.
And you're not allowed to be as physical as you were even a decade ago. And with Bama, we see a lot of cover one with them, especially with a robber in the middle. And then we've seen a lot of quarters, and you see that a lot of college football now. Teams, with how analytically driven college football has become, we've seen a lot of teams be like, okay, and Mizzou does this a lot too. Now under Corey Batoon is, we'll let you get to the red zone, and then we'll take our shot that we can tighten up and make you kick field goals, because college football offenses are just too good. And receivers have got, you can find great receivers everywhere in college football now. Maybe not a Ryan Williams or a Luther Burden, but you can find dudes who can run and catch. Mm-hmm. So just not giving up those explosives is just so imperative. Unfortunately for Bama, they've been getting up a lot of those explosives in the secondary. Run game, they've done okay. They didn't do a great job on Dylan Sampson, but Tennessee's got a really nice run game. So
yeah, well, it's got to get back. It's got to get there's a fine line where you're too far off the ball, and they're just going to grab it, throw it out there, and get their little 5 yards. Okay. But then there's a point when you're press man and you're up in somebody's grill, and now you're hand fighting. It's always going to come back to the defensive back, because they're the ones that have no idea what the receiver is going to do. And so there's got to be, I'm going to say, you got to back. It's going to have to transition instead of man press, 10 yards to 8-5, maybe 2-3, and then just react from there. But this grabbing, all that kind of, the hand play is just, it'll change. Somebody will figure it out. But
and I think you're seeing some of it because so much also of that press came from RPO stuff, where you couldn't just give up a slant to the inside. Texas does it a lot. Georgia last week did a really nice job on their RPO game, especially their safeties. And sometimes with that kind of stuff, it just comes down to dudes. Do you have dudes at corner? You can coach them up so much, and Bama's got dudes, obviously. These kids are 4 or 5 star recruits. They're not, but it's really young. And like you said, there has to be an adjustment made if you're Alabama moving forward.
Well, that's the biggest thing is I've watched all the, a lot, and I'm a former quarterback and coached secondary, and I went through this evolution of how things changed and evolved, and there's going to be another evolution with regard to it because the hand play, they're going to have to back off a little bit and get a little more reactionary, maybe go back a little bit in time and just react to the ball and that kind of stuff. Give yourself a chance because now it's all just throw it where you put the defensive back into a bad position where they're going to get a interference call.
And you underthrow the ball. If you underthrow it, and the corner doesn't get his head around, you're going to get a PI call.
Yeah, exactly. What part of Missouri are you from?
St. Louis.
St. Louis. You familiar with Cape Girardeau?
Yes, go SEMO.
Yeah, I played against OSEMO. Let me tell you a quick story. We played up there. I played at Delta State University in the Mississippi Delta, and we went up there, played SEMO. And playing the worst kickoff is not the 11 o'clock. The worst is 2 o'clock, especially at the end of August, 1st September, because it's humid. And we go up there. We go up there and we're playing them and we're warming up. And all of a sudden, here's this spot, this thunderstorm. So we go in the stadium underneath there and that kind of stuff. And storm goes by about 20 minutes later. We go back out. Man, I'm going to tell you that the steam, you could see it. It was like 1st September. And that is the hottest, sweatiest. It was the worst experience ever.
Oh, red hot.
Never felt anything like that in my life. It was awful.
You played high school up here in St. Louis. Yeah, those even at 7. That first week, last week in August, first week in September. When I got to high school, they implemented laws where halfway through each quarter, you had to take a mandatory water break.
Yeah, mandatory timeout.
No timeout.
It wasn't back then.
It'd be 2nd and 6, and it'd be timeout, water break, and all right.
None of that back then. And we were on the way back. Finish up. We were on the way back, and we're headed from Cape Girardeau down to Mississippi Delta, and we're outside of Memphis, and we had a guy on our team because it was humid. It was sweating buckets, and we had a guy on our team. He went into a full body cramp. His arm started cramping up, like arm, leg. Oh man, we pulled the bus off the side of the interstate. And we had it's a funny story. And to finish this funny story, we had a guy, our trainer, and he was one of those guys, that a trainer ice could cure anything.
Oh yeah,
you got a fever, put ice on it. You got a cut on your arm, you don't need stitch, put ice on it. And so we got this guy, the miracle of ice curing full body cramp. So I get him out on the interstate, and they're going to dump ice on him. Miracle ice can cure.
Miracle ice. Lordy.
Anyway, I divert.
Good old SEMO, the Red Hawks, baby.
Yeah. Good program.
They've been a nice couple of years. I had a couple friends that went there. Yeah, they've been a nice few years. Last half decade or so since I was about to graduate college till now.
Good.
So we've looked at the whole season and the Missouri season throughout this year. Got lucky against Vanderbilt. And
they got outplayed against Vanderbilt. Which
wait a second. Let me remind you this old saying: luck is when skill meets opportunity.
I don't disagree, but they got outplayed. And of course, they went down a couple spots in the poll. Like they went down, they were like 9th, and they went to like 13th or something. And now Vanderbilt's ranked, and it's like, oh, okay. Like, so are we going to get like some recognition for winning that game because Vanderbilt's actually pretty decent? It's like, no. Okay, all right, that's fine.
Well,
it's Mizzou. We kind of expect those kind of things. It's all right. I mean, and look, you lose 41-10, you don't deserve anything. So,
yeah. But yeah, it's like that whole season, like from what you've seen of Missouri this year, Zach, what are the strengths and weaknesses to look out for? And who are the players to watch out for this Saturday? And what would you say are the keys to victory?
So offensively, it's the names you've heard. It's Luther Burden. Eli in his career has usually done a really, really good job of getting slot guys out, even when the Mizzou offense stunk, like 2021, 22, before Kirby Moore stepped in. Okay, so every year besides last year when the Mizzou offense stunk, but usually he did a good job of getting like looks for Dominic Lovett and Luther Burden out of the slot. This year it hasn't really happened. But Burden's going to have to like. If Luther has a big game, he's going to be a top 10 pick. So, Nate Noel, how healthy is he? He fits really well into the Mizzou scheme with their kind of their zone run scheme, their outside zone stuff. Marcus Carroll's kind of come on the last couple weeks and gotten majority of the carries while Nate's been banged up. Marcus is fine. He's not as explosive though. But yeah, it's going to come down to Luther Burden, Brady Cook offensively. The right side of the Mizzou offensive line has been pretty good. The center, Connor Tollison, had a pretty, if you look at like PFF and whatnot, had a pretty rough game against Auburn. But Armand Membu and Cameron Johnson were here last year. They've been fine. It's the left side of the Oklahoma transfer, Caden Green, and Marcus Bryant, transfer from SMU, his first team all ACC or AAC last year, that have really, really struggled against Power 5 teams. They look better against Auburn for stretches in the run game. Pass blocking, not great. So,
I'm sorry. I like their resilience in the Auburn game. Not panicking, coming back methodically. Of course, they got a couple of big plays and that kind of stuff. The quarterback coming back in, Cook, and I really like the resilience there. That they didn't panic.
It was
very impressive, very smooth, and a good thing to develop on as far as team. Build the team around. We got a chance.
With the expectations coming into the year, do you know how hard it was going to be for me to be happy about a 21-17 win over Auburn? But I was like elated. If you watch my post game, I was like, oh my God, because that was just a cool moment. Like Brady Cook, 2022 was not very good. 23, like I said earlier, started off really bad through 2 games and then turned it on and was awesome for a majority of the year. Famously got booed before the Kansas State game when he was announced as the starter. And then this year is just really up and down. Hasn't been great. Missing on a lot of throws he's made in the past. But that was a cool moment. Like Mizzou's had a pretty good run of quarterbacks since I've been watching football. Like Chase Daniel, Blaine Gabbert, Drew Lock, James Franklin was really a really underrated player.
Oh, I remember him. He was in 2010 and 2011.
2011 through 2013.
Oh, there we go. 2011, 2013.
And then you had Matty Mock. Like the last few years have been kind of rough.
That's right. 2010 was Blaine Gabbert. I remember Missouri upset Oklahoma with College Game Day in town.
Yes,
and
that was super
Brent
fun.
Musburger was calling that game.
I'm glad you mentioned Mark. I had forgotten about him. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then you had Mock wasn't, roller coaster there, but he wasn't horrible. And then lately, it's been Kelly Bryant was just never healthy, and then it was Connor Bazelak who wasn't very good. Sean Robinson started some games, but so it was just kind of weird after Saturday. It was just talking like, what is Brady Cook's legacy? St. Louis kid. Leads them to a 10-win season, probably their second best team since joining the SEC. I think they're behind the 2013 team that was in a game away from playing for a natty. and was really good last year. This year he's been kind of rocky, but they're 21st in the country. Everything is still in front of them.
Exactly.
If you can find a way to win this game, you're right in the thick of these things. I don't know if at 10-2 they would get into the playoff, but the season is still in front of them, and even 9 wins at Mizzou isn't something to really to just kind of make light of. Like, that's still a good season.
Isn't it amazing how we have all these unrealistic expectations?
Yeah,
we don't know, but we're just we ought to be.
That's Bama. Like, Bama's going to be Bama.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Yeah, we have these. You never know. I mean, in today's world with all this NIL and portal, and you never know what team you're going to have. You can't.
Look at Vandy. They switched a lot of their roster, and
I mean, look at you can't. It's hard to prognosticate based on last year because who knows last year? I mean, the players aren't there anymore. And I'll be interested. Let me ask you this. I'll be interested. I mean, will this filter down to high school football where you can go to this, because everything now.
It has in basketball.
Yeah.
You see kids, but there's not a system in football. Well, I guess there is if you look at IMG and stuff. But in basketball, there's a little bit of that movability. Like, kids will move AAU teams, and they'll play for the basketball schools. You're there to play basketball. And football, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, a lot of schools and states are going to the school choice, where the tax money follows the student. They can go here, go there, and everything. And so now, with high school, 1 year this guy's here, and the next year, I mean, it's a crazy system we're setting up.
And you can flip it completely. I mean, look at Indiana. They took the MAC Sun Belt All-Star team, and I mean, if Curtis Rourke can come back from Michigan, they're going to have a 10-win season for the first time in 100 years.
Well, Curtis Rourke is unfortunately out indefinitely.
Yeah, that's why I said if he can come back for the Michigan game, because I think they play Michigan in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
They got Washington.
Yeah, they got Washington this Saturday. It's going to be on Big Ten Network with College Game Day in town.
Yeah, and it's Tavion Jackson. We'll see what he can do, or Tavion Jackson. But going back to Brady Cook,
if Sidney can win with Jackson, then that'd be a win right there for him. But you were saying about Brady Cook,
it's just he wore Mizzou jerseys when he was a kid. His first memory is Chase Daniel. It's a really cool story, and I've been really hard on him this year. I mean, anybody that's listened to me talk about Mizzou or see me tweet about Mizzou, but you can't judge that kid's heart. He was in the hospital, for God's sakes, and came back and let it win. And that was the best he's run all year too. So for Mizzou, this can mean one of two things. And I know which way I think I lean, but I could be surprised. Either that's a moment you rally around and you play good football this weekend, you win or you lose. Yeah. Alabama's a good team. You're on the road. Missouri football will never be we should go into Tuscaloosa and win. Maybe in basketball at some point, obviously not this year, but and you're going to rally and you're going to move forward because OU is a losable game. South Carolina is a losable game. Mississippi State's playing better football with Van Buren at quarterback. And Arkansas is playing some pretty good football last week, notwithstanding. Is that a rallying point, or is it Auburn just kind of stinks? And they like to blow games. We'll see. I want to be optimistic. I think I've been pretty. I think they're going to play a pretty good. I don't think what will happen to A&M is going to happen this weekend. That was just a. They got a couple calls. I mean, if either of you guys watched that game, there were a couple calls that went against them pretty early on. And I think they just mentally checked out. They're like, all right. And it happens. Hopefully it was just a bad Saturday, but mentally there was a PI that was overturned basically. A big play got called back when it was only 13-0. And I think they checked out. They're like, nope.
Hey, let me ask you a quick question. Did you watch Georgia, Texas?
Of course.
What do you think about that penalty they reversed?
So I have to put this in two windows. Window number one, that wasn't PI. That was the right call. But I don't think you can let the clock run, spot it, have Georgia or have the next snap ready to go. Texas fans throw the stuff on the field, and then reverse it.
Yeah.
I think the call was right. The process was probably very much wrong. Sort of like the Miami Virginia Tech Hail Mary, where they called it a touchdown. It wasn't a touchdown, but there was indisputable evidence. So you could college football
that was wild,
super hard.
I mean, Miami Virginia Tech.
Well, I don't know if you saw the Alabama game, but I mean, there was a throw to the end zone, and the obvious that the defensive back was grabbing the jersey of the Alabama player. I think it was Ryan Williams grabbing.
And they didn't call it.
They didn't call it, and then all of a sudden you're watching.
The Skycast
3 hours later, you're watching Texas and Georgia, and they reverse a call, and I'm like, I've never seen this in my life. That was a strange one right there.
Yeah, it does feel like officiating's hard. The kids are getting faster.
No doubt.
But it does feel like it's taken a noticeable step backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look, man, Mizzou fans, we're not unfamiliar with bad calls going against us. It feels like every other year. It's like every year I learn a new rule because of something that happens in a Mizzou game.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know you could rough the punter 50 yards behind the line of scrimmage when they lost to Kentucky. I didn't know that was a thing. But he's like, technically the box extends. I'm like, oh, all right. I didn't know that.
Neither. I'm learning something now. I'm going to have to go look at it.
Oh, you have to find the clip. Mizzou, I was at that game. It was Mizzou, Kentucky, 2022. Bad snap. Like, Mizzou was trailing at the time, 21-17. Bad snap. The Kentucky punter runs back and gets it, goes to punt it. The Mizzou player basically tackles him, and it's a bad punt. And we're like, oh my goodness, our offense is sunk all day, but we just got to go like 35 yards. Roughing the punter, automatic first down. Kentucky basically runs out the clock, wins the game. And everyone was like, and then I talked to my friend, and they're like, yeah, technically the roughing the punter extends. It extends to the moon. Apparently, I had no idea. I also learned there's no horse. I believe it's no horse collar in the pocket. Like, if the quarterback's in the pocket or whatever, there's no horse collar tackle. I learned that against LSU last year. Disconcerting signals. I learned that a lot. Now they had like 3 or 4 of those in the LSU game. I'm like, I learn new things every year, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, it costs us games, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I try not to blame refs. It was 21-17. If you want to win, score 24 points. But
yeah.
Oh, yeah.